In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to colour in your stamps using two completely different colour pro markers blended together so that you can get the kind of effects that you can see on the little fairy in front of you. It's really simple to do, even though it actually looks quite technical. So let's get going. First of all, I'm going to show you the colours that you'll need if you want to do this project, which are here. Again, you've got your pro markers down that side, and then your corresponding Copic chows that way. There's orchid and blue pearl, which is what we're going to colour our dress in with, and then blush and soft peach for her skin, sandstone for her hair, and marsh green for the leaves. So I'll just let you look at those for 2 seconds while I get ready. Right, as usual, first thing we're going to do is just put down a bit of scrap paper so that we're not bleeding through onto any precious furniture or anything. And again, I've got my stamped image here already. Stamped it in memento ink, which means that the ink's not going to bleed when you put your pro markers down on it, so you'll keep a nice crisp image. And so here we go. I'll colour in a dress first. Basically, what you need to do, usually when you're blending, I'll always say use the palest colour first. Because these purple and blue, as you can see, are quite similar, it doesn't really matter which you use. If you're deciding to blend two colours together that are quite different, use the pale one first. But I'm going to just start by using the purple first, which is the orchid. And I'm just going to put this down on the top half of her top. So I'm going to go just a little bit further than I want it to go. Like that. And again with the pro markers, make sure it's nice and coloured in. You might be able to see it's bleeding a bit into her arm. Don't worry about that if it does happen, because once you colour her arm in, the sort of skin colour will erase the purple. And now I've got the other half of her top, which is the blue pearl, and I'm just going to go and overlap into the purple slightly. Then I'm going to get the purple again and overlap into the blue. Now the key is just to do this while both inks are still wet. You've got about 2 or 3 minutes. Just lightly tap a couple of times using each colour, and you can see there you've got a really nice blended effect. Like I say, don't worry about her arm being blue, because once you put the skin down that will completely disappear, I promise you. So now I'm going to do her skirt, and again I'm going to do the top half of her skirt purple, making sure that I put the ink down and really flood her skirt with the colour. You don't want to skimp on colour with the pro markers, you want to make sure you've got a nice solid even colour. And then I'm going to put the blue down, just slightly overlapping into the purple as before. Like that. And then get the purple again and slightly overlap into the blue. And then the blue again and just overlap into the purple. And doing that a couple of times really means that you get a really lovely blended effect. And then I'm just going to put the blue along the bottom of the underside of her skirt and put the purple inside there, like that. And that is all you need to do to blend your colours together. Now I'm going to do her shoes, and I'm going to give her mainly blue shoes. So I'm going to put the blue down there and just leave a little white gap where I'm going to put the purple. And then purple down there, like that. And again, while it's still wet, just lightly go over the join with the blue. Once you're on her shoes, probably going over the join once is usually enough, because that's a really small area. And then I'm going to give her stripy purple socks. And again, a little bit of blue, like that. And then for her wings, I'm going to do bits of purple on the inside. And the blue on the outside. And like I say, you may notice that I'm not really worrying too much if the colour bleeds slightly over the edges of the paper, because the stamps are quite sketchy. They're not really something that you need to get really precise edges for, and so any little bits like that just kind of add to the artiness of your finished thing, I think. Again, going in with the blue just over the edges, and a bit more purple over, and that is basically the fundamentals of how you'll blend the colours together. Now I'll colour her in, and you'll be able to see how using the colour of the blush will get rid of all the blue colour in her arm. So this is the Pro Marker blush, and if you can see, I'm just working over the area where it is bled into it, and if you go over and over, you will slowly see the colour start to appear like that. And again, don't worry that this looks a bit dark, because I know when it first goes on it does, but Pro Markers always dry paler, and once this dries it's a lovely pale flesh tone effect. And then to give her a little cheek, I've got soft peach, and I'm just patting that lightly onto there while the blush is still wet. And if you just leave that, the peach will sort of bleed into the blush colour, and you'll get a lovely, lovely soft cheek effect. Now for her hair, I want a colour that is kind of not too garish, because the blue and the purple is quite a nice colour together. So I'm just picking the sandstone, which is a nice soft pale brown, which won't clash with the two colours that I've chosen for her dress. And I'm just colouring in the whole of her hair, making sure that I go over and over each of the sections until it's one nice even colour, like this. Now because her dress is quite busy, I'm not worrying too much about putting shading on her hair, because you don't want to detract from the dress. But if you would like a bit of shading, you can always leave that coat of sandstone to dry, and once it's completely dry after about 10 minutes, if you go back over the layers at the bottom, sort of there and round her flowers, that will then be a little bit darker. And then I'm just going to colour in her flowers. Again, I'm keeping to a really simple palette because you don't want it to clash, so I'm using the blue pearl and the orchid that I coloured her dress in with, and I'm just going to dot those together over there so you get a really nice effect. And the same with these flowers. It's really handy when you're colouring in, because you don't want to use a lot of colours, but it's also the best way to do it, because you end up with a really nice image that's not clashing, and that you don't want too many different flowers and different colours and things like that. And then again, to keep it nice and simple, I'm just using a marsh green, which is quite a dark green, which will really bring out the colour of the blue and purple of her dress. And just roughly colouring in the leaves, not worrying too much about being too precise, because it adds life and movement to your drawings if it does slightly go over the edge. And then just a little bit of kind of sketched green at the bottom to go in for the grass, and that is your finished effect. Again, I'm keeping it simple and not bothering putting any shading on the plants, but again, if you want to leave this marsh green to dry, once it's dry you can then go back over the leaves and add a bit more shading if you like, but I'm kind of happy with that, and I hope you are, and that is basically how to blend two different Pro Markers together.